not.
There's no point in testing. False positive.
Yeah. They were talking.
Do you want a donut?
Yeah, put them out, Moishi.
What do you mean? He's got plenty room. Come on. There's always room for donuts. Come on. No, I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat them. What flavor?
Jamming.
We can send them on Zoom. We might catch COVID. Do you want a donut? Huh? There's no such thing as COVID. It's a scam. Government's locking us down. Why?
That's why taking vaccine and be alright.
What vaccine?
Iran hasn't. Did Iran say yet that Israel created it?
Is that what?
Israel created it.
What time is Shachris tomorrow, Yehuda? Okay, after Shachris tomorrow, there'll be Shiur, and then Mitzvah Shem Motzei Shabbos is going to be the new pair called Shiur. So which is much lighter, more interesting morning.
You get finish tomorrow.
I'm going to try very, very hard to finish the parak tomorrow. I might do a tiny bit more than the daf today just to see if we can get, because Friday is always a short We're up to Daf Yutes Amud Aleph. In Pesachim, 4 lines from the top. We need to have a bit of a summary. Please, what's the word? Please pass the down. So everybody should help themselves. But should you be in charge? Do you mind?
Later in the Shiur.
Late in the Shiur. Okay. So Ben, can you see? Can you get there? Can you? No. Can you get? Can you? Give us a Shalom, what about you? Pass to the road behind you.
By the end of the Shiur, I'll be gone.
Okay. That's back.
Ben on me. Fine. Oh, sure,
okay. We're talking about. No, it's fine. Oh, it's this. Okay. We're discussing Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi. Do they agree with each other? Do they hold of each other? That's the question we're discussing. The Gemara said yesterday Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi does not hold of Rabbi Akiva. We proved that Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold of Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold of Rabbi Akiva. Because Rabbi Yossi proves that Shlishi and Revi by Tuma and by Kodshim from Karbachimus. The Karbachimus are based on the fact that Kodesh is more chomer than Tuma. And therefore by Tuma we see Shlishi, by Kodesh must be Revi. If it would be true that Rabbi Yossi held of Rabbi Akiva that by Chulin is Shlishi, then you would come out that by Tuma there's Revi and by Kodesh be Chamishi. So that's how we know that Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold of Rabbi Akiva. So now we're asking, you test them with other 4 lines from the top. And Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Yossi minolo. How do we know that Rabbi Akiva does not hold of Rabbi Yossi? Omale. So he replied, that was Ravina to Rashi. That means there's no Tana anywhere that holds the such a thing as Revi by Kodesh, Revi by Tuma and Chamishi by Kodesh. And if we held that Rabbi Akiva held of Rabbi Yossi, so he would work out the same logic that Kodesh is more chomer than Tuma, and Tuma is more chomer than Chulin. And if by Chulin there would be a Shlishi, by Tuma there would be a Revi, and by Kodesh be Chamishi. That means the way we prove that Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold of Rabbi Yossi is because if Rabbi Akiva held of Rabbi Yossi, then Rabbi Akiva would hold that there's such a thing as Chamishi by Kodesh and Revi by Tuma. And how do we know that Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold of such a thing? The answer is because we do not have a Tana anywhere that says such a statement. And this is a tricky thing. Can you rely on the fact that nobody talks about something, but that such a thing is not true? That is a very difficult question, right? Sometimes you have a shail in the poskim. Nobody talks about it. Nobody says there's a issa. Does that mean that it's mutter? I mean, the fact that nobody says chamishi ba'kodesh revi b'tumah, does that mean that nobody holds of it? Says the Gemara. Can we rely on such a piece of logic? Nofak of Ashi v'yitim of Kahana dok v'ashkach. Of Ashi or of Kahana went out, and they actually proved it from a much more stronger point of view. Not just because nobody says it, but in fact that we see clearly that Rabbi Akiva does not hold of Revi b'tumah chamish b'kodesh. What's the right? Nofak. Hold it now. Hakeli mitzayfes b'ashbeseichel hakodesh avlei l'tumah. It's a Mishnah in Chagiga. The Mishnah in Chagiga that lists out, it's called Chomer Bakodesh, it's the last book of Chagiga. And there the Mishnah lists out all the things that Hekdesh, Kodesh, Korbanos are very, very chomer. A chomer in Korbanos. The things where we see we're more machmir in Korbanos than Tumah. I asked you a question like this. Imagine this was a very big bowl, big tray. And on it, I have apples. One apple here and one apple there. And imagine I touch one apple. Does the other apple become tummy? What would you say?
Maybe 2 levels lower.
Oh, that's a very good point. Rashi suggests that. He said very well. Maybe 2 levels lower. Why do you say 2 levels lower? Because the apple makes the bowl tummy, and then the bowl makes the apple tummy. The problem is that the apple will be a rishon, because let's say a shell's touch it will be a rishon, and a keli never becomes a sheni. So if we were to go like you were saying, it won't work. So what would happen? It would stop. The apple would be a rishon. You can't make a keli sheni. Keli never becomes a sheni. So the next apple won't become a shlishi. Food can become a shlishi, but a keli can't become a sheni. So that won't work. So rather, if you do want to make the second apple tummy, how are you going to do it? No, you touch the first apple. You never touch the second apple.
Without touching each other.
Without touching. The answer is like this, that in Hilchas Korbanos they said, we're going to be machmir, that when you have a bowl, it's all mitzaref, and one, if you touch one, it's as if you've touched them all. That is the chiddush of Chomer Bakodesh.
You have to touch the ball or by touching the one apple.
If you touch one, if you touch one.
That's only about carbon, you're saying, or is that?
It's only back one, it's not by tumah.
So these apples aren't carbon though.
Okay, so apples was a bad example. Let's say bikurim would be a korban. Let's say a korban minacha, etc. Okay. The main thing is we're trying to provide a chumrah in korbanos that doesn't exist in tumah. What is the chumrah by korbanos that doesn't exist in tumah? That even without touching, what happens is the tumah spreads. That is the chumrah that we've learned. Oh, not by tumah. Doesn't exist by tumah. That's nan. Let's see the words inside. Hakeli mitzaref es masha b'seichel hakodesh. That the keli joins together what's inside it, lekodesh avalo letumah, for hekdesh, not for tumah. So we see that for hekdesh, if you just touch one, it's as if you touch them all, and therefore it's all tummy. Right. Says the Mishnah another chumrah. B'revi b'kodesh pasul b'ashlishi b'tumah. That another chumrah is that by korbanos we go all the way to a level of revi, and by tumah we only go to a shlishi. So there's 2 chumras we have over here. But, no, tumah chulin is sheni. According to Rabbi Akiva, yes. Rabbi Akiva was the one that wrote this Mishnah. That means this Mishnah, which tells us 2 chumras in Kodesh over tumah. In fact, the Mishnah there lists up 10 chumras that Hekdesh have. Here's 2. What are the 2? What are the 2 chumras that Hekdesh has over tumah?
Anything in the ball.
The tumah spreads to all of them, and by Hekdesh you go down to revi, by tumah only by shlish. Who's the author of this Mishnah? Who's the one relying on? Rabbi Akiva. Why? Why is Rabbi Akiva? Because over here we have another problem. That means we could have another problem. We talked about Hekdesh. We said many times that tumah doesn't spread unless it's a food, a liquid, or a vessel. So if, let's say, for example, you've got ashes or coals of the mizbeach, and a tummy person touches it, tummy or toy, what would you say logically? Ashes can't become tummy. Why can't it become tummy? It's not food, it's not a keli, it's not a liquid. The halacha is that Rabbi Akiva comes along and tells us there's such a thing called chibas kodesh. Chibas kodesh means the love of kodesh, literally, which means the importance of korbanos is so special. The more important something is, the better we want to look after it. So therefore, chibas kodesh machsharton lios tamein. Chibas kodesh, the preciousness of a hekdesh, a korbanos makes it, that will make it tum. So let's sit inside. The Tanya of Akiva Hosif Rabbi Akiva has sodas, flour, bacteria, and spices, balavona, frankincense, bakecholim. Shim nogat volume benikzoson, posal is kulan, the all parcel. Now, Rabbi Akiva over here is telling us two chumras. What are the two chumras? One is that even though it's not a food, it becomes tomei because chivas kodesh. Another chumra is telling us that if you touch one, they all become possible. Which is what? The same as that Mishnah in Chagiga, that when you've got a bowl and it's got inside it a few things, and you touch one, they all become tummy. Even if not touching. Why? Because it's in one bowl. It's in one bowl, it's considered to be one item of food. Says the Gemara that since that Mishnah is going b'shittas Rabbi Akiva, now let's see the Mishnah again. What did that Mishnah say? Revi and chamishi loy. That Hekdesh gets to Revi and not chamishi, shlishi and Revi loy gets to shlishi, not to Revi. So we see by combining the two nekudas that the Mishnah clearly says it's only shlishi and Revi, not Revi and chamishi. And we've proved that this is Mishnah's Rabbi Akiva. Why do we prove this Mishnah's Rabbi Akiva? Because only Rabbi Akiva is the one who says that tumah spreads if you touch one thing without touching the rest. So we see that Rabbi Akiva holds only shlishi Revi and not Revi and chamishi. So let's get it clear. We asked, how do we know that Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold Rabbi Yossi? The answer is, if Rabbi Akiva held Rabbi Yossi, then what would be the case? There would be even Revi and chamishi. So the Gemara says, maybe Rabbi Akiva indeed holds Revi and chamishi. Says, well, no, you can't possibly hold Revi and chamishi. What's the proof doesn't hold Revi and chamishi? Because we've got Mishnah the Chagiga, which is going to be Rabbi Akiva, and it only says shlishi Revi. Why does it, again, catch question? It's not so clear according to Akiva. Maybe they can become tummy. He holds Yitzma Yatame, patches. That's a shayla. It didn't become tummy, so we don't know Shittas Rabbi Akiva. That's one of the things that Rashi over here talks about. It's long Rashi, where from Rabbi Akiva we don't know what we would hold. Chivas Kodesh is not said by everything, not completely, certainly. Yeah. You could say that liquid chazal were more maker. Alma says the Gemara, Kasova tziruf d'Rabbanan. The fact that Rabbi Akiva tells us these halachas, two chumras. One is tziruf, that one spreads to the other. Second of all, chibas kodesh machsharton yos tamein. Now, chibas kodesh is a din d'Rabbanan. Everybody agrees with that because in our Torah, coals can't become tummy. So you have to say it's because of what? Because of chibas kodesh. So you have to say it's d'Rabbanan. So the fact that he puts the two halachas together teaches us that the din of tziruf is also only d'Rabbanan. The Gemara here says the din of tziruf is only d'Rabbanan. He holds the concept that if you touch one thing, they will become tummy is minater. Why? The pasuk says like this, but we talk about the korbanos of Nisim. We read it to Nosei again and again and again until we get it to we can memorize them. But these psukim, the pasuk says kaf achas, one spoon of gold. Now kaf in the Lashon HaKodesh is how many? One. Why? If it would be Rabbi, what would it say? Kapus. So kaf itself is like saying one spoon. A spoon is already one because it doesn't say spoons. So kaf is one. Why does the Torah need to say kaf achas, one spoon? Just say kaf asor zav will be enough to teach you that everything within the spoon is considered to be one. So therefore, if you got a spoon and it's got two apples in it, and you only touch one, everything in the spoon is considered one, and it all becomes tummy. Let's remember, when we talk about spoon, we don't mean like a tiny teaspoon, a ladle. A ladle would be a better word. So therefore, the point is that the Torah, the word kaf achas, the extra word achas, teaches us everything in the ladle is one. So from here we see that it's a din d'oraisa, not a din d'Rabbanan. So the din of tziruf is a machlokes if it's a din d'oraisa or a din d'Rabbanan. Tanan Hasam. The more now delves a little bit more into chasum matal. Al machach nimtzas b'basa. You found a needle in a cow. Now we'll discuss later, but there's a chance that a needle is tummy. It's always a good chance it's tummy. We'll discuss why we are assuming it might be tummy, but there's a good chance it's tummy. Yes. You must remember we once learned a Gemara. If a theft happens in your house, you have to assume that a tummy person came in. So we're always choishes for tumah. So we'll discuss in a minute why we're choishes for this needle being tummy. So what happened was, shasakin, the knife which you shechted the cow with, by yadayim and the hands of the kohen to hovers the toy. That means we don't know when you shechted the cow, did the knife touch the needle? And in fact, you might have cut that cow into pieces. You don't know, did it or did it not touch the needle? And you don't know if your hands touch the needle. You don't know. So the halacha is that your hands and your thing are tummy. But all the meat, tummy is all tummy. The entire cow is tummy in the base finish. Nimtzis beperish, if you find a needle in the excrement of the cow, meaning that inside the stomach of the cow, inside the intestines, you find soya, you find perish, you find excrement. And delve deep inside it, you find a needle. The halacha is akol toy, everything is toy. These halachas we're going to describe that probably for the rest of the day. Omar Bakiva, Zachinu, from this Mishnah we've learned a wonderful, wonderful thing. What did we learn from this Mishnah? Shein tumas yodaim b'mikdash, that hands do not become tummy based on mikdash. We'll see, let's explain this a minute slowly. First of all, Rashi says, Zachinu, it's a wonderful thing, we're thrilled about it. If you look at Rashi, top of your Testament base, Schus, v'teva, v'revach, v'takona ilanu. It's a schus, it's a goodness, it's a profit, it's a wonderful thing. Now, Minat Torah, there's absolutely no such thing as one part of the body being tummy and not another part of the body. It just doesn't exist. If you touch a dead body, your whole body becomes tummy. If you don't, nothing becomes tummy. Midrabanan, they came up with a lot of different tumas. One of the tumas they came up with is that your hands are always tummy. Did you know that? Your hands are always tummy. So if you wanted to eat now a piece of truma, let's say the Beis would be standing, your hands would be automatically tummy, unless you wash them. It's enough to wash them, and your hands take away the tumah. Why would they make such a comment? What? Yes, like a moiti. That's actually why we do. That's why we wash our hands for bread, to remind Kohanim to do it when we finish the stand. Right, now why did they do that? Why did they do this? Because hands are dirty. We know from COVID that you have to wash your hands more than anything else. It doesn't say wash your hair every day or wash your hair every 30 seconds, but your hands you have to wash every 30 seconds. Have you ever heard of COVID, Moshe? There's such a thing? Never heard of it. There is such a thing, and it's so what's the problem? We don't want truma to get put off. Imagine you put a platter of sushi, and everybody helps themselves. Before you know it, nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to touch it. So what did they say? They said, don't touch truma with your hands. Don't touch truma with your hands. If they're saying don't touch truma with your hands, unless you wash them first, truma will not be damaged. Right? That means we don't want the truma to get ruined, so you have to wash your hands before you touch truma. It's like a nice thing, the chashivus of truma. So in order to remind people not to touch truma, they said your hands are always tummy. Now, in the Beis HaMikdash, did they have this rule that all hands are tummy? How do we see not? This is a tricky part. In this case, we have a person who shechted a cow, finds a needle, and doesn't remember if his hand touched the needle or not. The halacha is his hands are toy, the knife is toy, the flesh is tummy. Now, if we held that your hands are always tummy unless you're 100% sure what you've touched, how can you have your hands toy? How can you have hands toy? The answer is he washes his hands, and then he's shoymer his hands. He guards his hands from touching anything, and then his hands remain toy. So this person doesn't even know if to touch a needle, and the needle might be tummy. And after became, we say his hands are toy. If already somebody we're not even sure he might touch something really tummy, we say his hands is toy. Kavachiv is somebody that we have no reason to think that his hands are tummy should be toy, right? If we held that all hands are automatically tummy, we would have to say that these hands are also tummy. It just doesn't make sense. The answer must be that in the Beis HaMikdash, they did not make the concept of tumas yadayim, and that is why his hands are toy. Says the Gemara, top your Testament base up of the page. The same principle, Shein tumas yadayim v'kelim b'mikdash. The halacha is, we had this before, that tummy liquids make a keli tummy. Even though in HaTorah, liquids can never make a keli tummy, the Chazal said that except for the zov, the spit of a zov, but most times liquids don't make a keli tummy. They said that it can make tumah. Does anybody remember why? It's quite hard to remember. We did talk about it. Why do liquids, which are sheni letumah, or even a rishon letumah, which can't make things tummy, why do they make things tummy? That's one of the reasons. That's why we said a different gezerah. I used to get mixed up, but now no, that's a different gezerah. That is why liquids can spread tumah. on most cases, but not. No, it's because we're choishes you might get mixed up with the roik or the meiraglaim or the zov. Okay, says the Gemara. Rashi adds over here a small point, which is the Gemara later. The Gemara later says that whenever they used to shecht a cow, they always used to make it wet first. Does anybody know why? Why would they soak the cow? They would make the cow walk through a stream. What? You should know, Moshe. You deal. Well, what is it? No. Yeah, it makes it easier to strip it. It seems it's easier to strip it if it's soaked before it dies. That means to pull off the leather. What? No, it only works if you soak it when it's like absorbs moisture. If it has a bath before it gets shechted, it's easier to take off the skin. So we don't do it nowadays. So these kelim, this knife, if the knife touched the needle and the needle was wet from the water which was on the cow, so the knife should become tummy. The fact that the knife does not become tummy is a raya that we don't hold tumas kelim this with the shayda. That means, why did Rabbi Akiva get so excited that the hands are toy? Why did he get excited about the kelim being toy? Does anybody know who made the gzeh of Yodayim? Who made the gzeh that all hands are shnios, all considered shenim? Who made that gzeh? Quite a famous character. Shlomo HaMelech made it. So Shlomo HaMelech made it. The other gzeh as kelim was only made by Bisham HaBesilah. That's over 1,000 years apart. So therefore, no, is it over 1,000? Not 1,000. Many, it's hundreds and hundreds of years later. I don't think it's 1,000. So it says it's 1,000, but I don't think it can't be 1,000. Because you've got the first Beit was destroyed in the year 3338. So Shlomo HaMelech only lived in the year 3000, a bit before then, around 900. It's not likely. It was a long, many years. Okay. The point is that it was made much later. So what Akiva was saying, that this halacha could be even said before Bisham HaBesilah even said the halacha. Since it was before Bisham HaBesilah said the halacha, so you can't prove yet whether they never made the tumah of the Beis Hamikdash, because it could be before they even instituted the whole tumah. Says the Gemara, this is a Mishnah, interesting Mishnah we spent a lot of time on Shabbos, is that one day Bisham HaBesilah was sitting together in Beis Medrash, in the upstairs, in the attic, where they were learning, and they made 18 gezeros. Because that day there were more to be the Chum of Bisham and Besilah, and they kept those 18 gezeros. What were the 18 gezeros? Now we'll mention some of them. Hasefa, all Sifrei Torah or Tomei. Does anybody know why all Sifrei Torah? Very good, very good. It's running out of battery. Why would that be? Thank you. All Sifrei Torah or Tomei. Oh, it's already charging. It's already charging. Now you've done it. No, you've done it wrong. You've done it the wrong way. You undo what you just did. No, now it's now you've done it. No, you must have turned it off or something. Sorry. Thank you very much, son. Right. Oh, sorry. All Sifrei Torah or Tomei. Why all Sifrei Torah Tomei? Very briefly. They used to store Sifrei Torah with the Truma together, because they said that's Kodesh, that's Kodesh. They used to store the two together. The problem was the mice would come to eat the Truma and then eat the Sefer Torah. So in order to stop people putting Sefer Torah and Truma together, they said all Sefer Torah or Tomei. That's why you don't touch your Sefer Torah with your hand. You're not supposed to touch your hand. By your dime, all hands. That's Tvul Yom. Well, actually, the Gemara actually asks the Kasha Tvul Yom has nothing to do with the Gzeiras Rabbanan. Tvul Yom is the Raisa. And in fact, the Gemara there deletes the words Tvul Yom. And all foods or kelim that got tummy from a liquid.
So why the hell to wash your hands before touching the Sefer Torah?
Because no. If your hand is toy before you touch the Sefer Torah, after you touch the Sefer Torah, your hands become tummy. They made a gzeh that just touching a Sefer Torah makes a hand tummy.
Why do we wash our hands before touching the cloth then? If we have to do something with the Sefer Torah.
That I didn't even know that halacha. What? Before you touch a Sefer Torah, you have to wash negel
Before
vasa?
you touch an actual cloth of a Sefer Torah, a person should wash negel vasa.
I thought that's a different halacha. Maybe it's a code for Sefer Torah, but it's not to do with this. Maybe, I don't know. So the Gemara says they all said at the same time. So Tais explains, Pshai is the case, so Rabbi Akiva came after this Mishnah. So Rabbi Akiva himself, who held the halacha that the hands and the kelim are toy, should have been happy that both are toy. Says, the Gemara now withdraws from the fact that we're talking about a wet needle. That's how Rashi explains, and Tais also. But rather we're talking about a dry needle. A dry needle would not make the keli tummy, the knife tummy anyway. Why? So God says it would. What did the knife touch? Food can never make a keli tummy. That means there was no chiddush. It's not that Akiva was. Again, let's get the clear Mishnah clearly. Before we talk about where it was found in the parish, talk about when you find a needle in the flesh of a cow. So the Mishnah there says 3 halachas: hands toy, keli toy, meat tummy. Kim Akiva said, "Wow, we see over here the hands are toy in the Beis Hamikdash. We're very happy about the hands. What about the keli?" The Gemara answers that the keli we're discussing where it was a dry keli, and everything around was dry. If it's all dry, there's no chance of it becoming tummy. A food can't make a keli tummy, and a keli can't make a keli tummy. So even if the keli touched the needle, it would still be toy. And therefore, that did not make him excited. So the Rishonim asked the question, if that's the case, so why does he even need to tell us that keli is toy? The Rishonim answer, how Gufa wants to tell us that a keli can't make a keli. Let's go weiter. Hi machat maya vidate. So what was this kind of needle? What was wrong with it? If you say the idea was it was any needle, you don't know it became tumah, you just don't know. Like we said once, if you have a theft in the house, you have to be choshesh everything's stomach, suffix tumah. So you had a needle, you've got no idea, maybe it's tumah, maybe it's toy. The halacha is, if you ever see spit on the floor, it is tomei avatuma. Why is it an avatuma? Because it very likely came from a zov. And a zov, the spit of a zov is avatuma. But in Yerushalayim, they said that spit is not avatuma. Furthermore, if you walk anywhere in the country that's soul and you see kelim, it's safek tumah, and you have to be choshesh for tumah. But Ashek in Yerushalayim, you don't. So you see, what do we care about this needle? Safek in tumah, we don't care about it. So we'll give 2 answers. We're talking about it was a real tumah. You knew there was a needle which was 100% vadai tumah. It was in the house of a dead person. And then what happened was, you lost it, the cow ate it. And now when you shech the cow and you strip it, you find the needle. So then it's real tumah. So why are your hands toy? Oh, you got real tumah here. The answer is because you're not sure if you touched it. Suffolk if you touched it, so therefore it's no problem. If your badai touched it, then it would be no good because you're badai tummy, because the needle is tummy. It says, well, the cow ate the needle outside Yerushalayim. Outside Yerushalayim, we said all kelim or suffix tummy. So therefore, the cow ate the needle outside Yerushalayim, and then afterwards you muzzled it. They couldn't eat anything else till it came into the Beis Hamikdash. Once it came to the Beis Hamikdash, you shechted it. Now you know for definite that where did this needle come from? Outside Yerushalayim. Every keli outside Yerushalayim is a suffix tumah. According to this answer, it's a suffix anyway. It's a suffix whether you touched it, and it's a suffix if there's tumah there altogether, because you don't even know that it's valid. So the first answer is we'll talk about badai tumah, not sure if you touched it. Here it's a suffix tumah because it came from outside Yerushalayim. Go for the more. Let's analyze it. The both came with colors. One said a spit, suffix spit is toy, and one said suffix keli is toy in Yerushalayim. The Gemara asks both of them is a full Mishnah, and our Moyo does not teach us something which is a full Mishnah. And if this is a clear Mishnah, why would you need to teach such a thing? So the Gemara says, all spit that is found in Yerushalayim, they made one marketplace for all people who are Tomei to live by. So everywhere in Yerushalayim, except for that marketplace, you can rely that the spit is torn. So what do you need to teach it to us? Answers, even if we know 100% that the Zov walked through the streets of Yerushalayim, and we don't know if he spat or not, nevertheless, Chazal did not. That's why it's still toy, right? Nevertheless, and that's something which the Mishnah never taught us, because the Mishnah was talking about a normal case. Here the Amor is adding, even in the case where you're sure that there was a Zov there, it's a still Torah. Says the Gemara, Kalim Tanina, we've got another thing that you said as well, that Kalim or Torah, that we also learned. It's not. Imagine this, it sounds like a very big chumrah, but really, I don't know if any of you been to Tesco, Sainsbury's recently, but what happens is there's one way to go in, one way to go out. They don't want people to catch germs. They had the same system with mikvois in Yerushalayim, a proper system. Can you imagine? There would be one path to go to the mikvah and one path when you came out of the mikvah. Imagine you're taking your pot to tovel it, and somebody was going to tovel, and somebody else has just finished toveling, and you bump into each other. Now you need to tovel your pot again. It's a waste of energy. Why not? You dip your clothes, and then you go out the other way. So what happened was they had two roads. So if you found a keli on the path going to the mikvah, very good, Tommy. Path coming out of the mikvah, so everywhere else. So the Gemara says, why did you tell me that the keli Yerushalayim or Torah? I'm going to learn from this Mishnah. This nan. Could I come in some Yerushalayim derech Yehuda lebeis hatvila tamein hodalma tohim the rest of Torah? Says the Gemara, if you're going to do the Jerusalem like that, it's mashma only the way up is toy, or down the tmein, everyone else is tummy. There's a steer in the deal. On one hand, you medayik all the ones on the way down the tummy, mashma all the way everywhere else is toy. On the other hand, it says all the ways on the way up is toy, mashma everywhere else is tummy. What happens if it's not on the way up, not on the way down? You find it in the plaza somewhere else completely. Tummy or toy, that is the deduction would be no, but each one you medayik could come to the wrong conclusion. One of them is on the way down, it's Tommy. Mashma everywhere else is Tommy. On the way out, it's Tommy. Mashma everywhere else is Tommy. No, it has to be. So then it would be Tommy because you'd be misupik that maybe it's Tommy. So when it says elevation dafka, the Vesha is dafka, meaning only the ones on the way down are Tommy, and everywhere else is Toy. And that we don't see from the Mishnah that Moira needed to teach it us. But there's one area which is not on the way down, not on the way up, and it's still Tommy. What's that? Around the mikveh, they would have cubby holes for people to catch their breath, to sit down, to store things. Those cubby holes were also Tommy, like a bit like the changing chambers we have in our alleyways. Okay, alleyways. Around the mikveh, the alleyways around the mikveh, that was Tommy. So if you found something in Yerushalayim, if it was spit or if it was a pot, you can rely that it is toy, except the shukah elyon should be Yerushalayim, or except on the way down to the mikvah, or the alleyways around the mikvah. Says more. If we talk about a needle that was lost inside, and now you suddenly notice it, we had the halacha that all metal that touches a dead body, what does it become? It gets the same level. So it comes out that's avatuma if it was in the house. Why does it say that it doesn't make spread tumah? It should spread tumah. It should spread tumah because at the end of the day, it's avatuma. If it's avatuma, and this person is not sure if he touched it, or he's not sure if the shechita knife touched this needle, it should become tummy. Bishlam until now we understood that we talk about vishnu tumah can't make a human being or kinim tummy. That avatuma does make people and kinim tummy. Amavashi says semeras azor shusavabim he. Tablei safik tumah shusavabim b'chol safik tumah shusavabim svikator. The halacha is, we said this right at the outset, Safek Tumah. What's the halacha of Safek Tumah? Does anybody remember? B'shusavavim it's tohoi, b'shusayachid it is tomei. Again, Safek Tumah b'shusavavim is tohoi, b'shusayachid it is tomei. So if you are walking in the street and you're not sure if you touch a dead sheret, a dead reptile, tohoi or tomei, what's it in? Tohoi. You're in your dining room, you're not sure if you touch a dead sheret, tomei. Where do we learn it from? Soita. Well, it's important to remember that because we'll see in a minute. So now, says the Gemara, over here you're standing in the Beis HaMikdash. Even if there's not another kohen in the whole Beis HaMikdash, the halacha is they established the Beis HaMikdash as a Rishus Harabim, and therefore it's Sveikot Torah. So what it says, it's a meres, as though Rishus Harabim, we are a Sefik Tumah, Rishus Harabim, Chos of Rishus Harabim, it's Sveikot Torah. When what we Rishus HaYachid, who's Sveikot Torah, who mechti hai mechat, Dov Hashem b'das lishel, who b'chol Dov Hashem b'das lishel, b'm Rishus Harabim, Rishus HaYachid, Sveikot Torah. Halacha is that when you're not sure, we just said in Rishus Harabim you're a toy, in Rishus HaYachid you're a toy. That is only if there is somebody that we can ask if you're a toy or tommy. For example, if you ask somebody, did you touch the shells? He might not know, but there's somebody you can ask. Then the halacha is like we just said. That means when there's somebody to ask, even if he doesn't know the answer, you're walking down the street, you don't know if you touched the shells. Since we could ask you, but let's say there's nobody to ask. For example, you walk into your dining room and you see a dead shallot and a pot, and you don't know if the dead shallots touched the pot. There's nobody to ask. The shallots, you can't ask a creature, and you can't ask the pot. In such a case, what's the halacha? It's always toh. Would anybody want to suggest why is it always toh if there's nobody you can ask? You come into your house, you don't know if a dead shallot touched your pot. It is logical. Where do we know Safek Tumah is Tommy? From Sota. Sota is a story of a woman who was not sure if she was Mazana. Now she is somebody that we can consult. We can ask her, did you or didn't you? She may not tell us the truth, but that is the reality. It's something we can consult. So therefore, the halacha of Safek Tumah that is Tommy, we should say, it's learned from Sota. If it's learned from Sota, so it's limited to the case where you can ask somebody. So over here, what do we care? That says in the base of the Shushabim, it's nobody to ask. Why? There's a needle and a knife, and you don't know if the needle touched the knife, so you can't. There's nobody to ask. Says the Gemara, we should have a Safek Tumah Bobi Deyadon. That's not considered somebody you can't ask. It can be asked because it's true. Yeah, and that's where the Torah says Safek Tumah is Tomei. So anywhere where you can't ask, we don't learn from Sota. So therefore you don't know that Safek Tumah is Tomei. Says, well, no. Over here, it is considered that you can ask. You can't ask the knife and you can't ask the needle. But you can ask the person that carried the knife. And therefore, it's like a place you can ask. We should have a dover, we should have a Safek Tumah Bobi Dei Adam. Safek Tumah Bobi Dei Adam, Safek Tumah, which a person himself was busy with, top of Chafam Aleph. Nisholin Aleo. As Rashi explains, it's considered like a soita that you can ask, and therefore it's Safek Tumah. Even if it's something on the floor, and you are walking past, and you're not sure. Let's say you're walking in the street carrying a dead mouse by its tail, and you're walking on the street, and you're not sure if the mouse brushed against a pot on the floor. You can't ask the mouse, can't ask the pot. No, you can ask the person carrying. He may not know. But that's considered Safek Tumah. So when is it not Safek Tumah? Is when there's nobody to ask at all. When you're coming into a house and you just see a dead shallot and a dead pot. That's right. If a mouse ran across the room, then you can't ask anybody. And therefore, that Safek Tumah is toy. I'm going to go on a bit. First, I'd like to do tell everyone. Also, because tomorrow is Friday, and I want to finish a video. Yeah, it's quite a long daf. I'm going to have to count a bit more. So, because Friday is short, I do want to start with Shabbos, a whole new topic. What? Yeah, that's a special way to pass. But Bossa Tommy. Hey, Bossa discussion b'may. The halacha is that for something to become tummy, we've only said this 1,000 times. That's for extra. So what happened was you found a needle in your korban shlomim. Let's say, yes. What's the halacha? 3 things: the knife. What's the halacha? Toy. Your hands. Why your hands toy? In the Beis Hamikdash, they said hands don't become tummy. Why is the knife toy? That's quite complicated. It didn't get wet. Since it didn't wet, it can't become tummy because it doesn't come. Oh, what about the fact that the mechat might be avatumah? It's a sofek, but they touch it, and sofek tumah b'shusavavi, you can't ask it, and therefore it's tummy. But the bossa is tummy. Says, well, but the bossa needs to get wet. Says the Gemara, hi bossa discussion by how do you get wet? In the discussion, but down, you can imagine, just shechted it, it's soaked with blood. Now, before you see next line, why does it become a hekech? Okay.
Because you don't want it. You don't want it.
Maybe you do. There's a Gemara that says that the butchers always wanted a lot of blood. It makes the meat look fresh. So why over here can you not become iskasha by dam? You should know the answer.
It's not the right liquid.
Why is it not the right liquid? Because you don't spill it like water. Why? Blood is a liquid. But blood which you pour on the mizbeach, you don't want it to flow on the water. You want to throw it in the mizbeach. It's not nishpach domei kamayim. It's not allowed to shpachenu kamayim. So Gemara says, that doesn't have the hechsher. Blood that you pour out like water, but if you don't want to pour it out like water, maybe you'll say to me, because after you shecht it, you pour water over it to wash it off, etc. and the water of the slaughterhouse is machshir the kavatuma. We actually had this before. Mashkin base with bechaylo down shedechein. Not only are they toy, elish in machshir, they're not machshir. And says Gemara it is kasha bechibas hakodesh. That became hechsha tumah through chibas hakodesh. That means if somebody asks, it's a typical question in the riddle. What does chibas hakodesh do? You should tell me two answers what chibas hakodesh does. Right? If good things are not in the three categories come tummy, like ashes, which are not a food, not a liquid, and not a keli, can become tummy because of chibas hakodesh. And another thing chibas hakodesh does, that's something that never became wet and therefore can't become tummy. If it's a korban, chibas hakodesh makes it tummy. Says the Gemara. Chibas hakodesh we've learned that makes it possible. Does it also become a vision and a sheni? Because over here it says the word tome. Tome doesn't just mean possible. We said at the beginning, tome means what? It can pass on tuma. Does chibas hakodesh make it so tome that not only becomes tome that it's possible, it spreads on tuma tufshit shlokish, svidshel menoches, dry mincha. That means a mincha that never got wet, flour that never got wet. Or do you say that chibas hakodesh makes it so tummy that he could do a vision nesheni? So you see that the Gemara there is the super. Why do we prove it from over here? And we're talking about a cow of a shlomim. You pass it through a river. We're not talking about mukhsha, not from the blood, because the blood is not machshir, because it doesn't get spilled in water. Not from the water of the slaughterhouse, because the water of the slaughterhouse is not machshir. It's the water that came from the cow when it went past the river, and it's still wet from that time. That's the water which is not from the Mikdash, and that is machshir. So why did we mention a korban shlomim? Why do you mention a korban shlomim? Why do you talk about shlomim? Why not? Let's see if you've got the last one or two lines of the thin lines of Rashi. It's not a new divrei maschil. It's not a new start. Rashi says, "La'achi nokat poshes of chishlam." If you show over boss lebailing, umisasically yapisa boss over boss, or ma'avir b'no somech shchita, umash k'deis k'desh neichel lahafshit u'mismei debate. So, you see, Moshe that if you want to skin an animal, the best way to do it is to soak it first. And by a shlomim, the owner is very keen to skin it. Why is he very keen to skin it? Because by a normal korban, who gets the leather? Kohanim. By a shlomim, who gets the leather? The owner. So therefore he soaks it because he wants to get the leather. Let's go on a little bit more. If it's found in excrement, that means you found a needle inside the intestines. Everything is torn. Why is it all torn? When they had a perish the perish we consider to be a liquid, right? Usually inside the intestines is quite liquidy. If it's liquidy, especially because of the fact that you just went through a river, so it's very liquidy and just drank a very lot. So why is it not considered a liquid? A liquid which came tome from a keli can spread tumah to basa. So the liquid from the needle, that means the needle was found in the excrement. The excrement is a liquid. The liquid should then spread and make the whole cow tummy. We're talking about thick, where it's like solid. A solid excrement which is not a liquid, it's a yavesh, and that is not able to spread tumah. Even if it is loose, because it is dirty water. Such dirty water is not considered a proper liquid, and therefore it can't spread tumah. We had this once before. That's really dirty water. This is not spread tumah. Let's just do four more lines. Something of sheretz metamis hamashkin. A sheretz can make liquid tummy. Umashkin metamis hakeli, and the mashkin can make the keli tummy. The keli metamis oichlin, v'oichlin metamis hamashkin. That means you can do tumah like this. This is a tumah which can spread from one to the next. And then we see our sheretz can make three different things tummy. If you count it, it's four. It's not three. And small goes mashkin to reish. Miss out the liquids on the first one. Adjava goes mashkin to sefer. Look, says Moses. We never found anybody that holds that liquid can make a keli tome except for Rabbi Yehuda because he dashes it tame. And then the Yehuda was chayza. So since Rabbi Yehuda was chayza, liquid doesn't make a keli tome. We prefer to say like this: that the sheretz made Let's go through it again. The sheretz made a kedi tummy, right? You put the sheretz inside an oven, the oven becomes tummy. And then the oven made the kedi tummy because the oven is a rishon and it makes the food a sheni, and the food makes a shlishi of the liquid, and that we do have. Says if you ever want to make barley, beer out of barley, what you do is you first get a bowl, then you add the barley, and then you add the liquid. And that's the way to remember the order of tumah of a sheretz. First it makes the bowl tummy, the bowl makes the food tummy, and the food makes the liquid tummy. Okay, we're going to stop over here. And tomorrow we're going to have to go quite fast to finish the perk. With Shemot Shabbos, starting a whole new perk. Right. That's not any questions thing. Stop it careful. Everybody can help themselves. Oh.
Moshe, if you're not sick of donuts at 9 o'clock, you can go down to the shop right over there. They're getting out the last.
David, I bought some donuts today.